Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ. So we will continue our discussion on economy. We are in the module industry, right? So I think so far we have completed 7 sessions in this particular module. We have started off with, in the first session, we have discussed about various industrial policies. We discussed from 1948 Industrial Policy Resolution to 1991 New Industrial Policy. And in the second session, we have seen the assessment of New Industrial Policy 1991. Third session, we have talked about manufacturing in detail in the module of industry. So we have discussed about manufacturing sector, and we have also discussed about national manufacturing policy. Connected to that, I'll be discussing this session. This is about micro, small, medium enterprises. Okay, so we will be discussing about this today in this session. And before, it was small scale industries. If you remember, when we discussed about the 5-year plans in the beginning of industry development, I have talked about small scale industries. The focus was given on small scale industries, the different 5-year plans, objectives, etc. we have already seen. So here I'll be discussing about micro, small, medium enterprises. In the fourth module, if you remember, we have talked about Make in India. Okay, and in the fifth module, we have talked about one of the component of Make in India, that was skill development, and where we have also discussed about various schemes like Startup India, Stand Up India, Adel Innovation Mission, etc. And then we have talked about Companies Act in the next session. We have discussed about Companies Act 2013. Then we have talked about public sector. We have discussed completely public sector. We have talked about departmental undertaking. We have discussed about non-departmental undertakings, financial institutions, PSUs, all those we have covered. Then we have talked about disinvestment. Okay, so the disinvestment proceeds and national investment funds, how is it utilized? All these are covered in detail. So today we will continue with that particular session itself, that module itself, that is industry. So here we will be discussing about micro, small, medium enterprises, or MSME Development Act 2006 we will be discussing in detail. So basically I want to talk about what is MSME Development Act and what is MSME. I'll tell you the definitions. I'll talk about the problems that MSMEs are facing. I'll talk about the advantages of MSMEs. Okay, and recent some changes which has been made in the definition in the last couple of weeks before. That also we will discuss. Okay, so now before I hope you know the difference between small scale industries and cottage industries, right? Cottage industries means it is actually established in the cottage of the artisans, right? But here there is a separate establishment. When you talk about small scale industries, it is a separate establishment. Okay, so here it is actually separate establishment. Cottage industries means it is actually established in the cottages of artisans. So cottages of artisans. Now when you talk about labor in cottage industries, it is family labor, right? So in cottage industries it is family labor. Here in small scale industry, if you talk about, this is hired labor. Okay, so in cottage industries you can see only traditional activities, so here traditional. But in small scale industries, you will see both traditional as well as modern. So the small scale industries is what we are actually talking about, MSMEs now. Okay, so here we will start with MSME. And before that, if you have missed out any of my videos, you can get in touch with me. All the videos are available here. This Telegram channel, all the videos are available, or you can join this my Telegram channel, join here, or you can get in touch with me in this Instagram ID, or this is Facebook ID. This is also my Facebook ID. Okay, so you can get in touch with me if you have missed out any of the videos. We have covered almost all history and economy. Okay, so MSME. So let's see the definition of MSME. Make a column here. So manufacturing and services, right? So we have primary, secondary and tertiary sectors. In primary sector, we are not talking about here when we discuss about MSMEs, that is related to agriculture. Those activities which are related to nature will come under primary sector. So nature means agriculture, then mining and quarrying will also come. Otherwise there was a different other classification: agriculture, industry and services, right? So this is another classification, but when you go for this classification, in industry, mining and quarrying will come. Here agriculture separate. But when you talk about primary sector, agriculture, and from industry, mining and quarrying will come. As I have told you, in primary sector, those things which are dealt with nature, okay, mining and quarrying have to be done with nature, so it will come under primary sector. So secondary, manufacturing will come. So here I'll talk about manufacturing, and also we will talk about services. Okay, so here I'm making a column for manufacturing, and I'm also making a column for service. Okay, so the previous criteria of MSME I will discuss now. Then after that I'll talk about the changes. Okay, the proposed changes we'll discuss, and also the new changes also we will discuss. So earlier MSME was actually defined on the basis of investment. So when it comes to manufacturing, investment on what? Investment on plant and machinery, right? Manufacturing requires some investment in machinery. Okay, capital expenditure is required, but services don't want that much investment. Few equipments is required. For example, when I'm delivering this lecture, I need only few equipments: the computer, the iPad, this pen, etc. There is a small investment which is required. So investment limit to qualify to be MSME in case of service sector will be less, okay, which is compared to manufacturing. In manufacturing, the investment limit may be more to qualify to MSME. So manufacturing, here investment in plant and machinery. So here investment in equipment. Okay, so investment in equipment. Now when you talk about micro, so micro, here up to 25 lakhs in case of manufacturing. So up to 25 lakhs investment will come under micro. Then small, 25 to 5 crore, 25 lakh to 5 crore, and medium, 5 crore to 10 crore. Okay, so beyond 10 crore it won't come under MSME. So if it is 20 crore, it won't come under MSME. But there is a change recently. I'll talk about that change also. Now after this, you see the services. In case of services, as I have already told you, the investments which you are making in manufacturing sector for plants and machineries, those investments or that much investment is actually not required in service. So the limit is actually less when it comes to service. Okay, so here you can see instead of 25 lakh, it is 10 lakh. So micro means up to 10 lakh investment. Okay, then small means 10 lakh to 2 crore. Okay, and medium means 2 crore to 5 crore. Okay, so this is actually the definition of MSME. Now the proposed changes we will see now. Actually in 2018 Feb, okay, some changes were proposed because see some manipulations, or there is a possibility of misuse here. There may be huge investment, but you will show lesser investment, because if you are classified under MSME, you will get more advantages. So to get those benefits, like government used to give a lot of tax rebates, interest, less interest loans, okay, interest subsidies also. So to get all these benefits, it is always desirable to keep investment limit and qualified to be MSME. So there is a possibility of misuse. So what government did is, it is easy to calculate the turnover. It is very difficult to know the investment. It is only the investor know what exactly is the investment, right? But it is easy to calculate the turnover. The turnover means it's all about sales. Especially after 2018, when GST is there, it is very much easy for the government to know the turnover or the sales. So it will be better to understand in terms of turnover. Now, in 2018, the proposal was manufacturing and service to be combined into one single category, and you have to see on the basis of turnover. So if it is micro, 5 crore turnover is allowed. Okay, so 5 crore up to 5 crore turnover. So here you can see 25 lakh in case of manufacturing and 10 lakh in case of service. But now both service and manufacturing into one single category, and micro means up to 5 crore turnover. Turnover means sales, volume of sales. Okay, it is very easy to calculate also. Then small enterprise, micro enterprise, small enterprise means 5 to 75 crore. You can see the turnover is so high here. Okay, and then medium enterprise 75 to 250 crore. Okay, So but it was actually not implemented. Now recently, due to the COVID outbreak, then there is some changes which has been made in the definition. So here in this change, actually both investment as well as the turnover is taken into consideration. So initially you can see here it is only on the basis of investment. So here, and separately manufacturing and services, right? There is a separate category of manufacturing, there is a separate category for services, and the limits are different for manufacturing and services, and it is only based on investment. What is the problem here? That there is a possibility that you may not disclose the actual investment. Okay, so you will try to avail the benefits of MSME despite the fact that you might have invested more, and even if it may not qualify to be an MSME. Now here, it is completely based on turnover. It was a proposal in 2018, it was not implemented. Now during this COVID time, they actually changed the definition, and how it is done? It is done by taking into consideration both investment as well as the turnover criteria. Okay, so now this manufacturing and service is actually combined. Okay, so you will see here micro, small, medium. Okay, so here investment, in case of micro, we need two, right? Investment we need, because both are taking into consideration. We also need turnover. So here investment would be like less than 1 crore. The investment should be less than 1 crore and turnover should be less than 5 crore. So before, if you see before, what was the investment in case of micro? In case of micro, the investment in case of manufacturing was less than 25 lakh. Okay, this is the case before. Okay, and in case of service, I'm not here M and here service, it was less than 10 lakh, right? So this was the situation before. Now you can see here investment increased up to 1 crore, turnover 5 crore. Turnover, I think we have discussed the same here, 5 crore. Okay, then in case of small, it is less than 10 crore. Investment should be less than 10 crore and turnover should be less than 50 crore. So before, what was the investment criteria? Only investment criteria was there. What was the criteria? 5 crore when it comes to manufacturing, and when it comes to service, it was 2 crore. Okay, so I've already discussed that. Now what about medium? Now the new criteria, which is based on investment as well as turnover, the investment should be less than 20 crore and the turnover should be less than 100 crore. Okay, so if the investment is going beyond 20 crore, it won't classify under MSME, or the turnover is beyond 100 crore, then it won't be a MSME. Before, it was, in case of manufacturing, it was 10 crore. In case of services, it was 5 crore. So now there is not that division. Both of them are actually into a single category. So one category, two criteria. Earlier, one criteria, that is investment, but two categories were manufacturing and service. So two category. Now one criteria in the previous case. Now one category, service and manufacturing together. But how many criteria? Two criteria. Investment as well as turnover was taken into consideration. Okay, will be taken into consideration to decide the MSMEs. So I hope this is clear for all of you. Now one important point that I need to discuss is actually the contribution or the importance of MSME, the contribution of MSME. All these points you need to be having clear idea, because you can write this in essay. If you get a question on essay related to industry, you can write it in your GS3 answers. Okay, so labor intensive. So first thing, it is actually labor intensive. Now what is the advantage if it is labor intensive? It will solve the problem of unemployment, because it creates employment opportunities. So it will create more employment opportunities. So unemployment will come down, poverty will come down. So to tackle the problem of unemployment and poverty, it is better to have a better MSME sector, because it is labor intensive. Okay, so labor intensive. You know, SSI, small scale industries, actually contribute 80% of total manufacturing sector employment. Okay, so not total employment, I'm talking about out of manufacturing employment. Okay, if you talk the total manufacturing employment, out of that 80% will be from small scale industries. Okay, that means MSMEs. Then production in terms of, so first is related to employment. Then if you talk about production, Okay, around 40% of total manufacturing production, not 40% of GDP. So in GDP, manufacturing is there. So you take manufacturing, in manufacturing, total output of manufacturing, in that 40% will be from SSIs, MSMEs. Okay, so 40% of total manufacturing sector production. Now, what about exports? In total exports, what is actually the contribution? Close to 50% contribution. Okay, close to 50% contribution in the export. Now, what about contribution of MSME in GDP? If you see, it's around 37.5% of GDP. Contribution of MSME in GDP is also significant. Okay, then other things you can write general points like entrepreneurship development. Okay, entrepreneurship development. MSMEs is coming out of with around 6,000 more than 6,000 plus products. Okay, use of latent resources, regional dispersal of industry. So all these points you can write in the advantages or the, when we are talking about contribution. Then what are the problems? So problems are limited access to institutional finance, right? So institutional finance is actually a big problem. It is very difficult to get loans, but now there are various schemes for this. But otherwise, in general, if you write limited access to institutional finance, obsolete technology, non-professional entrepreneurship and management, that you can write here. Okay, non-professional entrepreneurship and management, competition from large-scale industries and imports. Okay, so competition from large-scale industries and imports, inadequate infrastructure, especially in rural areas, now cannot achieve the economies of scale. Economies of scale is considered very important for any company to become more or make profit. Economies of scale means when you produce in large scale, you will be able to get more profit. Okay, when you're producing this pen, it may cost 100 rupee, one single pen, but if you produce 1,000 pen, it may cost very less, right? So like that, economies of scale you cannot achieve in case of, it is very difficult to achieve in case of this MSMEs, especially when labor intensive sector. Okay, so economies of scale cannot be achieved easily. So economies of scale has to be achieved. That is one of the most important economic concept. If need to be sustainable, if need to make profit, economies of scale is very important. Okay, so then marketing problems, obviously marketing problems. So these are the common problems that is related to MSMEs. So we have talked about what is MSME, what is the definition of MSME, what are the changes, what are the contribution, and what are the problems. Now see why this misuse, as I have told you. What are the benefits? If it is an MSME, what is the benefit? Bank loans become cheaper. Why? Because interest will be very less. Benefits. Okay, we will write benefits of being an MSME. So you will get low interest loans. I have discussed this in the beginning of the session. And then tax rebates. Then many government tenders are only open to MSME industries. Many government tenders. Okay, now higher preferences for government licenses and certifications. So these are some common points again which you can write. So these are the benefits of MSMEs. Now I'll discuss a question which from the topic that we have done already. So you can see this question that we have already done in the chapter of skill development. In the module of skill development, we have discussed this Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. So with reference to Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, consider the following statements. It is a skill certification scheme of Ministry of Labour and Employment. So you can answer this question only if you know which comes under which ministry. If you don't know, you cannot answer this particular question. Then only individuals undergoing training under the schemes are accessed and certified. So here Now, one simple thumb rule is, if you get this kind of question, there's a very strong tone, right? Only those individuals undergoing training will be certified. So in most of the cases, if you see the previous year UPSC papers and all, these are like, RC questions. I've discussed this when we have discussed about reading comprehension, especially when we discussed about inferences. I've talked about this. These are very strong choices. Okay, so there's a very strong answer choice. Most probably, this may not be the case. Even if you don't know, actually you can eliminate this. Okay, and I don't know about this particular, if you don't know about this particular ministry, you cannot actually answer. You need to know this. But if you know this, okay, if it is under which ministry, and in case if you don't know this, you can take a chance here by seeing this word only. Okay, now what is the answer for this? Answer for this is, you can see here. So I have 5 points here. What is the aim? It is a skill certification scheme which enable a large number of Indian youth to take up industry relevant skill training. So it is related to skill training. So individuals with prior learning experience or skills will also be assessed and certified. So this will answer your second point. Then who are the beneficiary? Mainly school, college dropouts or unemployed. Okay, and which ministry? Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Ministry. Agency, National Skill Development Corporation. So here which ministry they're talking about in the option? So Ministry of Labor and Unemployment. That means this is not true. Okay, then only individuals undergoing training under the scheme will get access and certified. No, that is also not true. So neither one nor two is your answer for this particular question. Since we have already discussed it, I'm not getting into the details of that. You can just watch that previous video that we have covered under skill development. Okay, so I just wanted to discuss this particular question only. Now, see, now basically I'll take up a question which was asked by one of the student, okay, in my Instagram. So what he's asking is, actually, in my video I've told that in bank rate, bank required first class security. Yes, okay, in bank rate, see, what is the difference between bank rate and repo rate? Under bank rate also banks can borrow, right? So bank can borrow from RBI. So RBI will give money, okay, RBI will give money, or RBI will give rupee under bank rate, and bank have to pay interest. That is what bank rate, right? And same is the case with repo rate also. Okay, so RBI will give money to banks under bank rate as well as repo rate. What is the difference? In case of bank rate, it is the first class securities which is pledged. First class securities means those securities which is actually issued by high net worth company. We have discussed that in detail in the module of monetary system. In case of repo rate, you need to pledge which security? Government security. Okay, so you need to pledge government security here. Now, which one is more secure? Government security is more secure. Also, government security is required by the banks to maintain the SLR. So when you are pledging the government security, you cannot do that all the time. Only after meeting SLR, if you have excess government security, then only you can get loan under repo. Okay, and since in repo you are pledging high or better security, the interest on repo is actually less. So for example, right now the repo rate is 4. This is the policy rate, right? 4% is the repo rate. But bank rate, it will be 0.25% high, right? 25 basis point higher, right? So that will be 4.25. Why this higher interest? Because you are pledging first class security, which is not as good as government security. Here it is lower because you are pledging government security. Then which one banks will prefer? Banks will prefer government security if they have excess government security, because you will get at lower interest rate. But it is not necessary that banks will have excess government security. Banks can borrow under repo rate only if they have excess government security after meeting their SLR requirement. SLR they will have to manage in terms of gold and the cash, right, or government bonds. Now cash they won't keep, because idle you won't get any return if you keep it in terms of cash. Gold, it is actually measured in terms of some base price, constant price, so you'll get very less return. And in case of government securities, you may get some return. So banks prefer government security. So banks have to maintain SLR in terms of government security. Whatever SLR, that much government security is there. Apart from that, if banks can borrow under repo, then the interest will be less. But there may be cases banks cannot borrow under repo. Still bank need money for operation, right? and in that case bank rate. Now there is marginal standing facility, okay, that also we have discussed, but the point is, in case of bank rate, you need to pledge the first class security, not the government security. In case of repo rate, government security. I hope you understood the difference between these two. So the reason why it is less interest and the reason why it is more interest is because you are pledging government security on one side, and on the other side you are pledging first class security. So better the security, lesser interest rate you need to pay. So repo, that's why. Okay, so repo means it is an agreement between RBI and bank. Okay, bank will give the government security, okay, and bank will give government security. You can say banks pledge government security. So it is like RBI buy government security with an agreement to, okay, sell them back. So here RBI buy government security with an agreement of selling it back, okay, at a predetermined rate and predetermined date. So that rate is what you call as repo rate. This transaction is what you call as repo transaction, and the rate is charged upon this transaction is repo rate. So RBI buy government security and give rupee, right, with an agreement. What is the agreement? Will buy back. So banks have to return money, will sell back. Now buying, will sell back. So this is a repo transaction. RBI will buy government securities, okay, and RBI will give money to banks, okay, and with an agreement of selling it back to banks at a predetermined date and rate, okay. So maybe after 2 weeks it will be sold back to the bank, and bank have to compulsorily buy it back, okay, and the transaction is what you call as repo transaction. The interest charged upon this is what you call as interest rate. Same is the case with bank rate also. Here in case of bank rate, instead of government security, it is first class security. First class security means these are the securities which are issued by the high net worth companies, okay. So it can be commercial bill, commercial paper, all these concepts we have discussed. What is commercial bill, what is commercial paper, which one is with the high net worth company, which one is with the small company. These can be pledged and you can get money. So I hope that is clear. Now if you have any doubt, you can get in touch with me here. This is my Instagram ID, and join the Telegram channel. So see you guys. Thank you.